Welcome to NHL Tonight, first shift for a Monday, March the 3rd, 2025. EJ Hradek here alongside the Grim Reaper.
Hey.
You're not that grim. I talk to you every day.
He's not that grim, really.
You're really very pleasant.
It's a misnomer. It's a total misperception.
And you're in a different line of work now.
Disinteresting?
No.
Yeah. Unappealing?
No.
But not grim.
No.
But not
grim. Listen, it's good to have you back today.
Good to be back.
So thanks for being with us. Welcome into everybody. And listen, at the start, I got to welcome in Jim Glynn, who's producing today. Jim! There he is. Hello, Jim. Thanks for doing this today. I mean, this is the first time that you are with us for first shift, correct?
First time all season, yep.
All right.
And can I say your national television debut?
Yeah.
National television debut?
Likely. Yeah.
Likely. There it is.
That we're aware of.
There it is. So, Jim, thank you. Welcome. We appreciate it. And if at any point you want to just cut us off,
I will.
Don't do it, but, you know, if you have to, you have to. I understand.
There is a button for that.
There is a button. There is a button. All right. With that, let's get to first things first, because we had some trades over the weekend. The trade deadline is Friday, and we're going to have coverage for you all day long on Friday, March the 7th coming up. But here are the three big trades that took place, the biggest of which was Seth Jones going from the Hawks to the Panthers. And Spencer Knight comes the other way to Chicago. You see Gustav Nyquist went to Minnesota, the Rangers, and Avalanche made a trade. And the key guy, I think, there was Ryan Lindgren going to Colorado. But, Stu, let's start. We got to talk a bit about this Seth Jones thing. He did skate today with the Panthers. Oddly enough, the Panthers are playing the Lightning tonight. Really big game. But let's start with Seth Jones, because I think this is a huge break for Seth Jones. I mean, we've talked about him a lot over the last couple weeks. I've watched him over the last couple years. I've been a big fan of Seth Jones in the past. I didn't really love what I was seeing the last couple of years. Now, maybe you're in a bad team. You get depressed and, you're not winning. I get it. But effort is something you control, and I didn't think there was always the great effort. But now he gets to go to the Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champions. He's going to have a lot of support there. This is a team that expects to be back, maybe win another Stanley Cup. I have to think he's going to be just thrilled and rejuvenated to have this opportunity to play probably with the best team that he's ever played with in the National Hockey League.
Well, you look at the resume of his career, right? I covered the Predators back when Seth Jones was cutting his teeth. Really couldn't find a lot of playing time in a decor stacked with the likes of Ryan Ellis and Shea Weber and Roman Josi. He's just Matthias Ekholm. He's not getting meaningful minutes, right? So, from Nashville to Columbus to now Chicago, landing spot is Florida. This is far and away the best opportunity that Seth's had to really, and he's going to be inserted into a top four role. He's going to get meaningful minutes. He's going to be given the opportunity to really make a difference for this group. I too am very optimistic. I'm very curious to see how this fit plays out longer term. The one thing that these Panthers have kind of demonstrated to us, EJ, from Bill Cito on down, Paul Maurice as their head coach now, they've created a winning environment, a culture whereby it kind of, promotes and nurtures this concept of success on the ice. And I really think that Seth will benefit that's the kind of place or environment he's being inserted into. And he comes to that environment as a guy where maybe these three other teams, it hasn't been kind of a hand-in-glove foot, or that they've necessarily been a super competitive roster. Went into Chicago with his eyes wide open, signed there as an unrestricted free agent.
That was one of those ones that was a little surprising in that he was able to direct traffic, right? He was leaving Columbus, he was able to direct traffic, and the idea that he was able to direct himself to Chicago, a team that was clearly going to be on the rebuilding mode in that group, it just seemed like it was an odd choice for a guy who could go anywhere. But listen, he's out of there now, so it doesn't matter anymore.
I think term and money are probably huge determinants why he goes there. Now, having given it, really an honest shot for things to kind of coalesce, he made it pretty clear. Don't see a lot of progress. Never mind how you feel about that, but he's able to force his way out of Florida, and again, now lands squarely in a spot where the fit could be optimal. I think he's really positioned for great success here. So I'm curious to see how he fits into a Paul Maurice system. Best coach I ever played for, no disrespect to anybody else I ever played for. I played for a lot of great coaches, but Mo runs a good program. This is a unique opportunity for Seth. I'm really curious to see what his game looks like in that red Florida Panthers jersey.
A couple of things around it for him now. We have to remember, Bill Zito was the assistant GM in Columbus, so he has a familiarity with the player, which probably helps him in decision making here. Not that you have to think long and hard about a guy who was a very high draft pick back when he was selected in the draft and is a big, long right shot defenseman. So, but he knows him, so that's the good news. Also, the Florida Panthers. Matthew Tkachuk, we don't know if he's going to be back before the end of the regular season. They're putting him on LTIR, or they have put him on LTIR. You can see the note here. We hope to get him back for the playoffs. This is Bill Zito talking about Matt Tkachuk. But that enables them. It opens up more cap room for them if they want to do more things. They are bold. Like, I think about Vegas in the West and what Bill Zito has done in Florida. These teams are bold. I mean, Tampa has been that way. Teams that win are bold. And I think this is another case where the Florida Panthers went out there. Chicago ate a little bit of money on this, so that was the good news as well. They're only paying a $7 million deal. The cap is going up. Yeah. These are positives. They moved Spencer Knight, who's got a lot of upside as a young goaltender, but they've already got Bobrovsky there, so they weren't trading anybody that was going to figure into things immediately.
Right.
It seems like it's all aces for the Panthers.
And I think really it's a little bit of gravy, right, in terms of Spencer Knight. He too, had been given a fair opportunity as a member of the Florida Panthers. It wasn't working out. I think he's arrived at a place in his career, and we see this with players frequently, EJ. The fit is not optimal. Time for a fresh start in another environment, and it might well be a situation where, should Spencer Knight flourish, he locks down there's an opportunity for him there to take on the #1 job. The point I'm making is it's a rather luxurious position for Florida because they've got Big Bob between the pipes.
Right.
He's your de facto #1 going forward. Figuring out, goaltender B, second goaltender, not a huge challenge for any organization. So they're kind of dealing from a position of strength
100%.
there. And two, you made this point earlier. We love looking forward to these Florida Panthers. Again, the inside information is unbeknownst to us at this point with respect to Tkachuk, but there's a good chunk of cap space there if they need to go out and make an important transaction at the deadline. It gives you that, you've got that luxury.
Yeah, no question about it. And tonight he was just blocked by Bobrovsky, really, at the end of the day. I don't know if it just wasn't working out. I just think that Bobrovsky played very well and took, they paid him a lot of money. There was a time when people thought Bobrovsky would be the one moved aside, right? Yeah. And that maybe Spencer Knight would come through. Spencer had some personal issues. He's kind of figured that out. I got a chance to talk to him over in Finland when the Stars and the Panthers were playing there early in the year. He's right on track now. I think he's played well this year. So it is a good opportunity for him in Chicago. Obviously, he's going to see a lot more rubber playing in Chicago than he saw in Florida, but we wish Spencer nothing but the best moving forward. It's an interesting move. And for the Panthers, again, bold move by the Panthers as they try now to go back to a final for the third straight year and win their second straight cup. And they've got a matchup tonight. Think about it. Seth Jones shows up. Perfect timing. The Tampa Bay Lightning are in town, and the Lightning have won 8 games in a row. Yeah. They've inserted themselves back into the mix as as a real contender with the way they've played, and they're in the mix challenging with Toronto and Florida for the top spot in the division. And here are the numbers. I mean, doesn't get much better than this, Stu.
No, they've been fabulous. I really did. I was making the remark earlier. I really felt that this is a group that has as good a chance as just about anybody out east to that window appears to remain wide open. Another team that's not shy to make a bold transaction, separating from longtime captain Steven Stamkos to acquire Jake Gensel, who has been a hand-in-glove fit since they acquired him, EJ. But the one player I like to point to in all this, and yes, you've got Kucherov and Braden Point and all these brilliant pieces, in addition to a Jake Gensel. The guy for me that has been a key, maybe the most important difference maker in this really, just brilliant campaign that Tampa's had. Brandon Hagel has just kind of elevated his game. I love that he's the kind of guy that he's got all kinds of offensive upside. He's got all kinds of speed, tempo to his game, but he plays with that certain, it's a little pash, it's a panache, it's a little sandpaper, and he drives tempo as he generates offense. I think him and the influence that, the difference that his game makes kind of has permeated the rest of this roster. I'll be curious to see where Tampa adds at the deadline, if they do, but we're accustomed to seeing them kind of in that third, that middle tier forward kind of spot. Coleman and these guys come to mind in years past. Are they going to make another transaction to see if they can kind of, give them a little more depth at the forward position?
It's going to be so fascinating over the next couple of days with the Panthers making the move they've made and with some more cap room to do more.
Right.
The Tampa Bay Lightning, and you point out, I think very astutely, Julien Brisebois has not been afraid to make moves.
Not
He's
shy
been
at all.
bold, right? And, the move to get Hagel, remember they gave up a lot of draft picks. People were like, boy, that's a lot to give up.
Yeah.
It's proven to be a pretty good move for the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are they going to do before Friday? And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, who've been on their own little roll of late, they're sitting in first place right now. What are they going to do? But to go to this game tonight, you think of the standings right now. The Lightning have 2 games in hand. They're 3 points back. If they win tonight, they're a point back with 2 games in hand. This is a really important game in terms of the standings. Like, if you're the Panthers,
4-point match.
You'd like to win tonight to kind of push the Lightning back a little bit. So it should be a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, fun game to watch, fun deadline, because what you end up having is, especially when teams from the same division who are competing close quarters with one another, you start to get these little miniature arms races that kind of build at the deadline. Very fun to watch from our position.
So we did have a couple of trades over the weekend. The Rangers also made a trade with the Colorado Avalanche. Here you can see it. VC, Lindgren, and the rights to Hank Kempf, who's an unsigned draft pick right now, to the Avalanche for Juuso Parssinen, who had earlier went from Nashville to Colorado, and now he goes to the Rangers. Calvin DeHaan, a journeyman defenseman. Then you can see those conditional picks, a second and a fourth. Rangers retain half the salary. Interesting for the Rangers right now. They've made some moves. They did acquire JT Miller, who has been terrific for them.
Yeah.
They've moved some other guys out. They haven't been great, really, since the end of the Four Nations, but they've managed to find some ways to win. They're still very much in the mix. They play the Islanders tonight. I mean, there's another game. The Islanders have won a couple in a row. They desperately need to win this game at MSG tonight. The Rangers playing a second of a back-to-back are right in the mix. What do you make of the signal that a trade like this makes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me. I really do feel, there's this this dichotomy that the Rangers are walking right now. Gosh, if we fail to make the playoffs, we don't want to have lost a deadline opportunity to make some changes here. I really feel like, and especially being, within striking distance of the Eastern Conference cutoff line, they want to remain relevant. You don't want to disrupt your roster. I think anything the Rangers do at the deadline, it's not so much trying to acquire picks necessarily coming back the other way or prospects. I think this group needs somebody that can, provide a little depth at either of the skating positions and spark this group to climb the hurdle as we see them now. Is that 2 points back?
Yeah, if they win tonight, they're tied with Detroit, at least in points in the standings. Obviously, the Senators play tonight as well, so they're in the mix. Obviously, if the Islanders could make a jump tonight with a win, they've got some games in hand on some of these teams as well. So it's going to be a race down the stretch. And when we look at that as well, right, we look at that bigger picture of the East. We're coming off an unbelievable Stadium Series game on Saturday night. It was an unbelievable job by everybody involved putting that together. Great tribute to Johnny Gaudreau. His wife was there leading the team out. It was a special night in Columbus, special for that franchise. But, the Devils have struggled. They lose last night. They get shut out. Jack Hughes gets hurt in the game, and we're still not exactly sure, what his status is going to be. But, that could be a significant injury. And, and here it is. He gets tied up with Eichel, and you can see him. He just goes in and bangs that upper body into the board and just rolls over there. And, you can see, he is, not looking good right there. And he's had shoulder issues before, so it's hard to tell exactly what happened to him there. You can see in a lot of pain as he leaves the ice. So last week I talked about this too. I said, well, one thing we know, the Devils and the Hurricanes, first round, they're going to be playing. They're locked in. Nobody's catching the Capitals.
Until last night.
And then I look at it again. I'm like, boy, the Blue Jackets are just 4 points back. They have games in hand. They've got a game coming up with the Devils next week. So, it's kind of wide open right now. What do you make of the situation with New Jersey and Columbus maybe pushing up?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're not hearing a lot out of New Jersey. I've been kind of prodding sources there to see if we can get an indication of, is this a longer-term setback for somebody like Jack Hughes? So really difficult to gauge at this point, but you really have to believe if Hughes is going to miss meaningful time, even just regular season time, EJ, again, I don't know that this organization is comfortable pushing Hischier and Haula up to be your 1C, 2C necessarily. So is Tom Fitzgerald looking to make an addition? Brock Nelson, Yanni Gord down the middle are available at the deadline as we look
right?
forward. Perhaps.
So look at this about
both
the Devils.
unrestricted free agents.
This is really shocking. I mean, the Predators, it's been a really difficult year. They've been shut out 9 times. It's less surprising because they just haven't played well. The Devils to be shut out this year 7 times? I mean, that's a little
bizarre.
Surprising, right?
Very bizarre.
With Hughes and Bratt and some of the other offensive players, Hischier and some of the other players they have there.
And I really thought the one remark I had early about these New Jersey Devils, like having solved things at the goaltending position, having a bit of an upgrade at the blue line this year versus the prior season, they seem to have that pace back to their game. I really sensed that they had that pace back to their game, although there have been stretches, like of late, where it's really that pace that they've been lacking. That's the hallmark, that's the signature attribute of those New Jersey Devils who 2 years ago put together an absolutely brilliant campaign. They play fast on both sides of the puck. I haven't seen that with the consistency that we saw going back 2 years where these Devils are concerned.
How about the Jackets real quick? It's a tough spot for Donnie Waddell because, he thought he might be selling. Now he might be buying.
Yeah. I'm inclined to reward these guys. If I'm sitting in Waddell's seat, it's been a brilliant season for these guys. The last, say, 20 or so games, they really have been, rather consistent going forward, playing with a whole lot of inspiration. Me, in my estimation, if there's the right deal out there to be made, a net upgrade at the forward position, perhaps, on the blue line, I'm pushing some chips in here and rewarding this group because they really have been, some out of nowhere campaigns this year. It really has been the fun story to watch. Yeah, and as Mark Adelberg, our research ace, just reminded me, Monahan could be coming back later. They're getting Monahan back,
right?
At
some point, they got Jenner back.
I think middle of this month, perhaps.
So that'll be great news for them. So the Blue Jackets, again, congratulations to the Jackets, their fans, the National Hockey League, really, for putting on a great show the other night, the Stadium Series game, as the Blue Jackets found a way to beat the Red Wings in a really important game between those two teams in the East. When we come back, time for the 3 stars of the week, and one of them, Stu, or the month, of the month. One of them is a guy that you just talked about. We'll come back. 3 stars of the month next on First Shift. It's time now for the 3 stars of the month presented by Geico, and wow, this is high end for the month of February. 3rd star was Leon Draisaitl with the 12 points in 8 games. Brandon Hagel, Stu, who you talked about already, 13 points in 8 games. Then you see Nate MacKinnon with 12 points in 8 games. The 4 goals also was a big factor at the Four Nations face-off. Let's start with Draisaitl. I mean, Draisaitl and MacKinnon are 1 and 2 in scoring right now as we speak. You touched on Hagel already, but let's talk about Draisaitl and what he's done this year.
And you put a premium on goal scoring, and that's why Leon really grabs your attention, right? Like just a really productive, rapid clip just in terms of goals per game this year. Sits at 44 on the season. A new career high of 55, break a new career high going through 55. That's certainly in the cards for Leon, the way things are going. But, in relative terms, a somewhat down year for Connor McDavid. What a luxury these Edmonton Oilers have for a guy like Draisaitl just to elevate his game to be as impactful as he's been this year, but he's just a whole lot to deal with. Great big body, protects the puck incredibly well, just a really gifted scoring touch in the offensive end, and it's been another really brilliant year for Leon Draisaitl.
Pretty good. I think it's pretty safe to say he's got a good chance to win the Rocket Richard Trophy this year as well as maybe the Art Ross Trophy this season. Just a terrific player. How about Nate MacKinnon? Because he was a big factor for Canada at the Four Nations face-off. He was the MVP of the tournament with his play. He continues to lead the way for the Avalanche. And for my money, when you go to the rink every night and you watch this guy, you're getting your money's worth because you're on the edge of your seat all the time watching him, because when he gets that puck in the D zone and starts coming out of the end, he's this unique combination of of power and speed.
Even comparing him to a Nathan MacKinnon, I think he's got an attribute that sets him apart from everybody else in the game. It's a dynamic, explosive stop to start, right?
Explosive, yep.
Really gets out of the gate. So trying to contain him in the offensive zone, he'll stop, he'll change direction on you laterally, and he explodes. Like those first 3 strides come like nobody else in the game. And really, Connor's a beautiful, remarkable skater in his own right. MacKinnon has this in his own unique way. Again, really, really hard to contain, but just a dynamic and a really gifted player, and just, brings the level up of everybody that plays around him.
Yeah, so a terrific year for MacKinnon, the first star of the month of February. Geico and the NHL have launched the NHL 4th Star presented by Geico, a fan appreciation program that recognizes one dedicated hockey fan alongside the NHL's monthly 3 stars players. This month's 4th star is Hank Stauwas, who is well known in Detroit for bringing signs to the Wings games so he can get in the head of the opponents and maybe affect the game. Here's Hank.
You're the sign guy, aren't you?
Showdown in Motown, baby. Let's go Wings. Hi, I'm Hank Stauwas, lifelong Red Wings fan and the NHL's 4th Star of the Month, presented by Geico.
Each month, Geico and the NHL are finding the most devoted fan that gives more to their team.
A lot of fans in the arena know me as being the sign guy.
You have the best signs.
I brainstorm, I think about it. Sometimes bada boom, bada bing, there it is. I started bringing signs to games in 2009. One of my oldest signs is Rocking the Joe. I've gotten a lot of players' autographs on it. One of the autographs I'm missing is Steve Yzerman. One day, I'd like to get Stevie Yzerman's autograph. I feel my signs impact the team for sure. Being the 4th Star of the month, I like to get into the opponent's head and give us the fan advantage. Steve Yzerman signed my Rockin' the Joe sign, and now my sign is complete. Go Wings!
3 Stars of the Month is presented by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico.
Take a look at the career profile of Jay Pandolfo. I remember him as a guy that helped the New Jersey Devils win 2 Stanley Cups. More recently, he is the head coach at his alma mater, BU, and first 2 years have been terrific there for Jay. He's gotten his team to the Frozen Four, and we get a chance to talk to him right now. Thanks, Jay, so much for taking the time for us today. I wanted to get you on just because really you were one of my favorite guys to cover back when you were in the league, but also I wanted to kind of catch up with you about coaching. You've had so many really high-end players there at BU. Just let me ask you to start, like, why did you make the decision to leave the NHL? You were an assistant coach with the Bruins and then go and be a head coach at college. What was it about the college game that really drew your attention?
Yeah, I think for me, like I really enjoyed, coaching in the National Hockey League, being fortunate to coach with the Boston Bruins, a team I grew up, obviously a big fan of, being from the area. So that was a bit of a dream come true. And then going through it for 5 years, I had the opportunity to go back to Boston University. And Boston University for me was a really special place. 4 of the best years of my life as a player. Really enjoyed the experience. I wouldn't have left pro hockey for any other job in hockey, or left the pro ranks to go to college if it wasn't Boston University. It just, everything kind of worked out, and really proud to be here, grateful for this opportunity. Like I said, it was a real special place for me, and I want the guys that play here to have that same type of experience. So those are the big reasons why I did it, and I'm very happy to be here.
Jay, a long career as a player, obviously, a lengthy career behind the bench as well. I'm always curious to know, in guys in your situation, who are the coaches that you played under over the course of your career that really helped shape who you are today as a coach, managing really a top 10 program in the nation?
Yeah, I think first it starts with Jack Parker, who was the coach here for 40 years. He was my coach here. I had so much respect for him, so I learned a lot from him, his approach, how he handled players. He was certainly held guys accountable, but also let guys make mistakes, let them play He could be hard on you, but also knew when to, sit you down and talk to you and explain why. And I took a lot from him. And then playing in New Jersey, I had a lot of coaches. I'll say that. In New Jersey.
You and me both, friend. You and me both.
Yeah, so we had a lot there, but I learned a lot from all of them. Mr. Jacques Lemaire was my first coach there. He was probably, from a X's and O's standpoint, the best coach I've ever been around. Just really understood the game and how to explain it and how to coach it. So learned a lot from him. Very fortunate to play for Larry Robinson too, who he was a guy that just he was passionate about the game. He was no question a player's coach. So I took a lot from him. Pat Burns was another guy. It was all about accountability with him. Really enjoyed playing for him. So a lot of different personalities and different coaching styles that I had in New Jersey, who I played for, and you take a little bit from all of them. And then when I started coaching, got the opportunity to coach with Claude Julien first, and then Bruce Cassidy, and I learned a lot from Bruce. Being in the Devils organization for so long, it was a lot of the coaching on ice sort of stuff was based on defense first. And with Bruce Cassidy, he still, like, defense was the priority, but he saw the game a little bit more from the offensive standpoint and how to create offense off of defense. So I learned so much from him in that regard. So I was very fortunate to be around a lot of great coaches and a lot of great people. And, obviously Lou Lamoriello as well, just the way he handled everything on a day-to-day basis. I learned a lot from him, and I was very fortunate to be part of that organization for a long time.
Yeah, you had a lot of, I would say, great mentors along the way that, as we showed that list there. You are now at BU. You're coaching some really high-end players there. I wanted to ask you about a couple of them, but I got to start with Macklin Celebrini. You had him only for the 1 year last year. He was the Hobey Baker winner. He's gone on to the San Jose Sharks now. What impressed you most about Macklin last year when you had him as a college player, and why do you think he's having so much success in transitioning to the National Hockey League?
Just his maturity for such a young player in college. He was 17 years old the whole season. That does not happen very often. I think Jonathan Toews maybe was one that did that in college. It's really hard to do, but his work ethic in competitiveness is like no other, and that's why he's having the success he has. Those elite guys, you're talking the Crosbys, the McDavids, McKinnons, all these guys, like, they just have a work ethic and passion for the game that they're going to get better every single day, and he had that, and to see that on the ice every day, I think it really rubbed off on a lot of our players, and was very fortunate to be able to coach him for a year. And to see the success he's having now, it's makes you proud that you were a part of it.
I want to also ask you about those Hudson brothers there. You've got a bunch of them there at BU. Lane is in the National Hockey League now with the Montreal Canadiens, having a great, really full rookie season. You have Cole Hudson on your group, this year. I got to watch both these guys play at World Junior Championship level, and, I was always a huge fan of Lane. He just was such a unique player. These guys aren't the biggest guys, but he was just so unique. And then I watched Cole, and I was like, this is like a carbon copy, only maybe just a little edgier. Give me your thoughts on both those kids, because they've had to overcome. People think they're too small to play. Lane is showing that he's not, and I think Cole, it's going to be the same.
Yeah, they're it's very impressive to see how good these two players are and they're not that small either. I mean, I think Cole's a little bigger than Lane. I mean, Lane, I think, is probably 5'9". Cole, I think, is 5'10". But the way they play the game, these two guys are unicorns, the way they play.
Yes.
There's not many that play like them. They are a little different in some ways, but at the end of the day, the results are the same.
Let me just stop you there. How are they different? Because I watched them, and they are very similar, but you've seen them both close. Give me how they're a little bit different.
Well, I think first, defensively, I think Lane uses more uses angles and stick position, and Cole does that as well, but Cole definitely plays more physical defensively. He's more of a physical player than Lane is. He's more of an emotional player than Lane is. So that's the difference there. Offensively, I think coming up the ice the way Cole does in space is a little different than the way Lane does it. I think in the offensive zone, they're both very shifty, but they still do it a little bit different. It seems like Lane more isolates guys one-on-one, where Cole would do it with a little bit more movement. But they're always 2 or 3 steps ahead of the players they're playing against. They know what's going on the ice. They know what everyone's going to do, and I think that's what makes them so special. Obviously, their edges are incredible, and that's what really separates them. And you think you have those guys, and they're by you before you know it. And they both can, they're both capable of doing that. And it's the way they compete too on a daily basis. That's another thing that's really special about them. And again, like I know a lot of people were questioning how Lane was going to do at the National Hockey League level. I will say I'm not surprised just from being on the ice with him every day, and just you can tell how special he is. And there's a heck of a lot of good players in college, and how dominant he was at this level, I really felt like it was going to translate to the National Hockey League, and he's showing that I think he's top 10 in D scoring as a rookie, which is absolutely incredible, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And it's great too that he plays on the East, so I get to see a lot more games than I do Macklin, because Macklin's games are so late. I usually catch those in the morning, but it's just fun to watch those guys play because they both love the game. Those guys love coming to the rink, and that's what you want to see from your players.
As we talk about...
There they are, in there for the bean pot. You saw
Oh, yeah, that was a wonderful moment.
Yeah, Celebrini and Lane getting the boys fired up.
Yeah, that was really cool for those two guys, having the break they had there with the Four Nations, and for those two guys to want to come back and be part of it. It was special for our program. Says a lot about those two guys. It was great. Like before the game, they came down, in the coach's room. We're talking. These two guys were so nervous. It was funny.
No, right.
They were so nervous. They're like, I can't handle this. And I think it's obviously a lot easier to play. To actually sit there and watch. And they were so grateful to be there and be part of it. And they have such a great relationship with their teammates, and everyone was so happy to see them. And they were happy as anyone after the game. And it was great to see.
Fabulous. The traditions, the allegiances run pretty deep.
Yeah.
As we talk about these young guys, Macklin and the Hudson brothers, it's kind of well settled notion, at the NHL today. A lot of these young players come to the league, come to the game today at this level, and they're NHL ready. They seem to be just light years ahead, skill-wise, and even in terms of their maturity. Is there anything you can point to? And I would say each. Maybe you agree with this, whether we're talking about, major junior hockey or Division I college hockey. But Jay, is there anything you can point to, points of emphasis or just coaching trends, program trends that have evolved that leave these players in a better position to really penetrate NHL rosters and make a difference when they get here?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one thing. I think it's maybe the resources that these players have nowadays at such a young age. The development they do from probably 8 to 12 years old, from 12 to 16 years old, they're just so ahead of the curve than the older players were when we were coming through. I think that's a big part of it. And they're so focused on getting better every day, and their goal is to make it to the National Hockey League. So I think it's a mindset more than anything else that these guys are going to do whatever they can to make sure that when that time comes that they're prepared and they're ready. I think it's each individual case is different. And when you have a special talent and the mindset to go with it, I think that's a big reason why some of these players can step into the National Hockey League and have success at such a young age.
I'll follow with another one of your players this year, Cole Eiserman. I guess Islander fans would be mad at me if I don't ask you about Cole Eiserman and his development this year. He played very well, I think, in a particular role at the World Juniors. It was, I thought, tricky. He wasn't playing maybe as many minutes, but he really embraced that and came up with some big plays. Came up with a huge play in that Beanpot victory you had over BC. Where is his development at right now?
Yeah, he's playing really well for us. a credit to him, the way he handled the role he was playing at the World Juniors. He really is a team first guy. He gets so excited for his teammates when they score. Obviously, he gets really excited when he scores.
Yes, he does.
He loves scoring goals, and he really believes that, if he doesn't score, he lets the team down. And he's got to change that mindset a little bit, but he just cares about scoring so much. And that's how he thinks he helps teams win, which he does. But he's really starting to round out other parts of his game. He's getting much better defensively. He understands he has to play a certain way, because there's going to be times when the puck's not going in the net for you, and you still got to find ways to help your team win. And he's doing that for us right now. And he's been a lot of fun to be around. He's got a lot of passion for the game, and he's such a good kid, and he really cares. And I'm really happy to see where he's at right now. And he just turned 18 back at the end of August, so he's still a really young player, and still has a long time here and a long path to continue to get better.
All right, Jay, before we let you go, the Terriers, you're getting into that time of year. Where's your team? You're going to make another run to the Frozen Four.
I like where we're at. We've had a lot of ups and downs this year. We've been a little bit inconsistent. I think at the end of the day, that's going to help us going into the playoffs. I mean, we've had plenty of adversity as a team this year, even within games. You talked about the Beanpot game. We really struggled in the first period and found a way to come back and settle down and have a really good second and third period to win that. So I think our team's been through a lot. And I think we're, looking forward to the playoffs and know what to expect. And yeah, I think if we can just find that consistency, we should be right there again.
All right, Jay, listen, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it. And hey, good luck moving forward to you and the Terriers as you get ready for the Hockey East and then the NCAA playoffs.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me. Good seeing you guys as well.
All right, Jay Pandolfo, the head coach at BU and two-time Stanley Cup champion. Coming up next, going to take a look at the Caps and Ovechkin. They keep rolling. A little slump right now, but we'll talk about them next on First Shift.
On the reload, he fanned on it. Ovechkin to the slot. He scores! Alex Ovechkin!
3 minutes and 59 seconds in the third period, and a broken play, a couple of bobbled pucks, and that puck gets to the grade 8.
31 on the season.
Here we are in that great chase.
So the grade 8 continues his chase of Wayne Gretzky. Just 10 goals now to tie, 11 to pass. Amazing stuff, Stu. I mean, only a couple of years ago, we didn't think this was a possibility, right? When we looked at that record that Gretzky had for goals and points, I think it was safe to say nobody's catching the points.
Yeah.
But we didn't think anybody was going to catch the goals either, but here's Ovi.
Do you know why we were saying that? Because every player demonstrates, almost universally, as your career starts to wind down, as you go 36, 37, 38, should you be so fortunate to play that long, the production dips. Not that you can't be relevant and impactful, but the problem with Ovi is he upsets the model, EJ.
31 goals this year.
31 goals this year. Only 4 players in NHL history have registered 30 goals or more at the age of 39 or more. He's done it now. Teemu did it once. Gordy did it twice. Johnny Busick is the other. So astonishing. The thing that I find really just unbelievable is, this particular year, again, a year when his production should be declining down, he's having a goals per game clip that goes back to his best days when he was 22, 23 years of age.
It's his 4th best of his career.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about where he's at. And he's only played in 44 games. Remember, he had a broken leg, so he missed time. And he's come back and 31 goals in 44 games. I mean, I say it often, Stu, the fact that he's on a really good team this year helps him a lot because he's got a lot of support, but
helps
it's been pretty amazing. And here's the most 30-goal seasons in NHL history. And he now has 19 of those, 2 more than Mike Gardner, one of the great goal scorers. Jaromir Jagr, he decided to go over and play in Russia, missed some time, so he might have been able to bump up that list as well. But boy, that's That's royalty when it comes to goal scoring.
I think your point is a fair one. But having said that, he had lots of 30-goal campaigns when this team wasn't terribly sexy either.
That's true. No, you're right.
So I do believe it plays an element. It does play a part in this insofar as, he's probably going to approach 40 or better because they're great. It might have been a 30-ish goal year were it not for how brilliant these Caps have been. So to me, EJ, yes, it's the shot. Yes, it's the hockey sense. But more than anything, inside that man's chest beats the heart of a lion. Like, it's just his vitality, the vigor with which he plays this game. That's what drives Ovi. And I'll tell you what, for him, once this objective, this goal kind of came into view, to me, he's risen to the occasion, and this year's no better example. He just has been, he's been astonishing.
Yeah, no question. No question about it. They play the Ottawa Senators tonight. That's a 6:30 Eastern time start. The Capitals looking to break a little snide. They've lost 3 games in a row. They got the Rangers coming up on Wednesday night at MSG. Here's a note from the Caps today. A little bit more news as they keep, they've made all these really good moves this year. This one from their PR group on social media. The Capitals have re-signed goaltender Charlie Lindgren to a 3-year, $9 million contract extension. Senior Vice President and General Manager Chris Patrick announced today, and they have the full release on their website. But, earlier in the year, they got Logan Thompson signed up. He's 28 years old. They re-signed him as a 6-year extension at $5.85 million per season. Now they go out and they get Lindgren signed. Lindgren's a little bit older, right? He's into his early 30s. They get him at $3 million times 3 years. So these two goalies moving forward will combine to make $8.85 million against the Cap for at least the next 3 years, right? And then they'll see how things move from there. But they've both played very well this year. The Capitals are third in the league, third best goals against in the league this year. These guys have been very, very effective for them. So I think it makes sense to lock these guys up. And those are reasonable deals. So if something changes along the way, those are trades, those are contracts in a league where the cap is going up that you could probably move if you needed to or you decided to make a change.
And that's, there are two approaches. I really like the point you're making. I'm glad you took it there because there are two approaches to the goaltending position, right? You can go with a declared number one, pay that man $6 million and above, and then, you invest rather modestly in a backup goaltender. Or, like we've seen Boston do with success, like we've seen Vegas do with success, and now the Washington Capitals are another great example. A 1A and a 2B, a 1A and a 1B, like we've seen in Lindgren and Thompson, really does give you some nice options. Those are cap-friendly contracts. They're appealing in the market. And should you get into a situation where, let's just say at the deadline, you really need to address a problem, you might want to kind of depart from that, jettison one of those two goaltenders because you're kind of dealing from a position of strength and declare, a number one, a de facto number one. It gives you that asset, that commodity to kind of, to put into the marketplace if you need to address a problem at the skating position, if that makes sense.
And these guys have worked well together. Remember, Lindgren was the guy that got the Capitals in the playoffs last year. He was terrific last year. You saw the numbers. He had 6 shutouts last year. This year, Logan Thompson has just come in, and what can you say? He's only lost a handful of games in regulation this year, so he's really taken the crease. But I think it's still one of those situations where you said it, 1A, 1B. Lindgren could still step in and be a really important player for this team moving forward.
And look at the success they've had doing it, too. I mean, these guys, credit these guys. They've been no small part in this. Mark, did you tell me it's the third best goals against in the business today, and that's been the remarkable turnaround for these Caps, right? Remember, they squeaked into the playoffs last year, but did it with like a -37 goal differential. This year, they're +50. I mean, that's just an incredible turnaround, and the skaters get a lot of credit for that, but these two have backstopped this group to a whole lot of success this year.
No question about it. So the Washington Capitals locking up their goaltenders. They are set moving forward. They've got the Ottawa Senators tonight, 6:30 Eastern time. When we come back, the Leafs have been hot. Look at Matthew Knies. This is right at the end of period number 2. He beats the buzzer. We'll talk about the Leafs next on First Shift. How about about those Leafs, Stu Grimson? Look at this. They've won their
Let's
last
talk about
5
them
games.
Leafs.
They've won their last 5 games. They're doing it in kind of crazy fashion. I mean, last week against the Bruins, they were down and out in the game against the Bruins. They rallied to win that one in overtime. Marner was great. They won a nail-biter at the Garden on Friday night against the Rangers. Got a late goal there to win it. And then Sunday, they're playing the Penguins in Pittsburgh. They have a 2-0 lead early. It looks like they're going to blow the doors off the Penguins. The Penguins get back, take the lead. It goes back and forth. Nylander wins it for them in overtime. The Leafs are playing well, and they've got this tricky game tonight now, right? They go home. They've been on the road. They go home for 1, and then they go back out west. They play Vegas, I believe it is, on Wednesday, then Colorado and Utah.
Yeah.
Tough, San Jose, you don't want to be looking past them because they need these points.
Yeah. And two, we've talked about this plenty this year. Our good friend Steve Kouleas got us talking about this a lot early this year. Key for these Maple Leafs, and you've got to believe this is objective one for this group. Button down, number 1 in the Atlantic. Avoid the 2-3 matchup.
If you can.
Perhaps that's a recipe for some deeper postseason success for these Leafs. I kind of, last night for me was a bit of a blip on the radar. And to me, missing Chris Tanev, he makes a difference.
Yes.
And 1 goal for sure, maybe 2, perhaps 3.
Yeah.
Missing Tanev and the difference he's made to the structure this team plays with, that was the glaring piece for me last night. They found a way to get it done, of course, but they don't get into a track meet like that if you've got Tanev out there playing 25-ish minutes.
No question about it. That's what's going to make it so interesting this week because the Panthers made a big move.
Yeah.
The Lightning will likely do something. The Leafs are likely going to do something. It'll be very interesting to watch. But tonight they got Macklin Celebrini. Looks like he's going to go for the Sharks. We'll see if they can avoid the trap.
The trap game. The
game.
dreaded trap game. Respect your opponent enough to bring your A game to the ice every night.
Right.
That's the mantra. That's
7 games on the schedule tonight, Stu. Thanks for being here today.
Good to be here.
Appreciate it. Jim Glenn, great job behind the scenes. NHL Now is coming up next. I will see you tomorrow.